What's up guys? Welcome to AnimeKouhai. If you'd like to help me out, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel.
This is just horrible.
It was Dino's unadulterated viewpoint. Although Apito was not Dino's adversary, she was also impervious to death in the labyrinth. Apito's speed would get in the way of his attempts to kill her fast and secure Ramirez. Instead of going at Dino head-on, she was adopting a more flexible hit-and-run strategy, coming in at the right moments. The recently developed Apito's combat technique was centered on speed. She made effective use of her own characteristics, which she was well aware of. Her existence value was approximately 700,000, but just in terms of speed, she was on par with Dino. Even worse, by the time Dino realized he killed her, Beretta would have been resurrected. Before a minute had passed, he had returned by teleportation. Even up against someone as formidable as Dino, Apito was doing a great job buying time for Beretta. She didn't need to stall for 10 seconds. Dino had nothing left to work with at this time. His best option was to put Apito and Beretta to sleep at the same time. After calming down, he attempted to use his unique skill Sloth once again. Sloth took its time to deploy, whether it was against a single target or multiple. For this reason, Dino made the decision to calm himself and, like a combatant, check on the whereabouts of his friends without becoming anxious. His attention was initially drawn to the sight of Rimuru engaged in combat with Velgrund after she defeated her brother in the battle.
How the hell did he manage to escape such a place? What I mean is, he's holding his own against Velgrund.
Honestly, he was in full shock. Demon Lord Rimuru and his commanding officers were reportedly shut off in Velgrund's otherworldly realm, according to Feldway. Dino was perplexed because Rimuru had managed to escape with ease by using the soul corridors to determine the coordinates of his location from his friends. Dino was unaware of this. What surprised him the most was Rimuru's strength. He appeared to be exerting pressure on the seemingly unbeatable Velgrund. Dino couldn't help but feel nervous.
We could run into problems if we don't immediately proceed with the assignment.
Keeping that in mind, Dino looked around at the others. Securing Ramirez was the primary goal of Feldway's plan. It was just a coincidence that Dino had initially stayed in the labyrinth when Guy had told him to, but it was regrettable that Feldway had noticed. The most closely guarded room was the control room, and Dino was the only one who could enter it, despite his reluctance to do so. As for how Feldway and the others would enter, a daring plan had been devised. He had called out Veldora by inciting Velgrund to ruin the labyrinth. To Dino's astonishment, the idea worked perfectly. The invasion was then executed, Feldway personally leading the way. 5 generals that Zelario had brought along, together with 2 of the 3 Phantom Commanders, accompanied Feldway. In total, there were 8 of them. For this mission, 2 of the top commanders had been brought in, which was an incredible feat in and of itself. Of the 3 Phantom Commanders, only Obara remained to watch over the Palace of Monsters deep within the Otherworld. Dino could not disguise his shock at their extreme measures when he learned of their scheme. On the surface, Dino was not the only one approached by the originals, remaining comrades. Also called into the operation were the other 2 who had been residing in a human nation secretly. They were technically Dino's subordinates, but Feldway had used them without permission. Their job was to keep the labyrinth destroyed. In the event that Dino failed, it was a precautionary measure. Ramirez had the ability to turn her labyrinth into a prison if she so desired. Feldway took precautions to stop that from happening beforehand because it would be extremely impossible to escape from. Since Dino was the most concerned about his 2 subordinates, he checked their locations on the monitor first.
Hey, no way. Even with Gracia and Pico as rivals, they are able to battle on an even playing field.
Gracia was the big female warrior, and Pico was the small, pretty girl. Following Veldora's defeat by Velgrund, the city that had been secluded within the labyrinth was brought back to the surface. By now Geld had stepped up to protect the city, but Dino had no idea he could stand up to Pico and Gracia. Kumara, the Chimera Lord, and Geld, the Barrier Lord. Kumara, by the way, possessed that swarm of beasts. Is this woman a cryptid? Is she related to the dragon Ivorage that destroys the world? No way. Uncomfortable thoughts had raced through Dino's head, he quickly suppressed them.
They really are the 12 Guardian Lords.
He thought to himself as he turned to face the other battlefield. Zelario, one of the 3 Phantom Commanders, was the one engaged in combat there.
Oh, that Zelario guy is still as strong as ever. Against Cherries and Trainee, he is displaying a great deal of confidence and doesn't appear to be taking it seriously at all.
An old friend of his was just as formidable as ever. Even after thousands of years, Zelario was still unsettling to view on the screen, as he had been at the time when he first perceived his fearsome strength. He appeared to be fine, so Dino moved on to the next monitor.
Cornu? I've heard that a few decades ago, he was vanquished in a major invasion. Is it the reason for his apparent impatience?
Chronoa was pressed for time, as Dino had predicted. It made sense. It would take him several decades to recuperate from the severe injuries he sustained in the last defeat, which cost him his entire army. Feldway would purge him should he fail this time. Dino reasoned that Chronoa must be under a lot of strain and not functioning at his normal level because Feldway was expected to be hidden at his side by now.
Poor guy. However, Masayuki is really weak, and it doesn't seem like a big deal that anyone is in his way. Though Venom appears to be a newbie in comparison to Beretta, I'm worried about him being a dependent of Black. Still, I suppose things will work out.
Since they weren't really close to begin with, Dino wasn't overly concerned about Chronoa. Feldway would handle it even if Chronoa failed. Precisely put, everything appeared to be proceeding according to plan. Maybe it was this feeling of security that caused Dino's lazy mind to become confused by the distractions.
But it's rather weird. Why must I be concerned about whether this mission is successful or not? It's unclear to me.
It was an extremely significant cause for suspicion. It seemed as though Dino would never get over his uneasy feeling over this mission. He was uneasy, as if the cause was at the tip of his tongue, but he could not figure out why. But sadly...
What are you doing, Dino? You better get on with it quickly, because I'm ready to make my move.
It was the end of the quiet moment.
I really hate working.
Dino actually liked Beretta and Apito very much and had nothing against them. This order only made him feel more disgusted. However, orders could not be ignored. Thinking there was nothing to be done, Dino made the decision to go serious. Feldway gave Dino another order, then hid himself and watched Chronoa fight. Although Chronoa tended to be overconfident, he was a dependable subordinate. Beyond that, Feldway considered him a very valuable comrade who had gotten his name from Veldanava. But Chronoa had lost a third of his soldiers in the previous assault due to a horrible blunder. Despite their tremendous strength advantage over one of the insignificant other worlds, Feldway had every reason to be disappointed. This was something Chronoa knew very well, and this time, instead of playing the adversary like he usually did, he was trying very hard to get the job done. Feldway did not find that amusing. The three Phantom Commanders, who should be enormously powerful, should not be at the mercy of the weak. Chronoa could have slain this opponent with a single blow, but even now he had missed. He had fallen for the enemy's tricks and had no idea that Masayuki had been replaced with a fake. Feldway looked back, his rage boiling into a deadly intent that left him speechless. Using his self-control, he kept telling himself to calm down until he just barely managed to hold back the urge to kill, and with that, he left Chronoa alone and went to get rid of Masayuki. Masayuki, on the other hand, who was on the run, was quite upset. It was hard to walk every step. Being the only one to survive was something he could not accept. Fearsome things were frightening, of course, but abandoning a friend was a much more terrifying experience. If something bad were to happen to them, he wasn't going to be able to forgive himself. Masayuki came to a halt and turned around. In the distance, he could see his friends engaged in fierce combat. Calgurio and Venom attacked anytime they saw an opening. The vampires exploited their immortality as bait, while Minutes stopped the enemy's movements. Jiwoo deserves special recognition for her skill in maneuvering since she was able to position herself to effectively parry Chronoa's devastating, heavy strikes. They were quite effective as a makeshift team, but this team would collapse if one of them disappeared.
Hey, Masayuki.
I'm heading back, Bernie. I was never comfortable talking about how I really felt since I didn't want my actual identity to be revealed. But what I wanted most of all was to develop closer friendships with everyone. Even if I'm a coward, I don't want to be a backstabber, you know?
Masayuki expressed his thoughts. The voice of the world began to ring in his head at that very time.
Recognition of the hero's courage not to flee. By doing so, the hidden power of the unique skill Chosen One is released and the 3 requirements are satisfied. Would you like to activate it? Yes, no.
What? Masayuki was perplexed. Fearing that he had made a mistake once more, he was relieved to see that this was not the case. He chose to approve it for the time being, even though he had no interest in any hidden abilities and it was already too late.
Confirmed. We are now enhancing the unique skill, Chosen One, with a new ability. Successful. Champion's Guide will now always be in effect.
A complex explanation reverberated within Masayuki's mind. Engrossed in that sense of nostalgia, Masayuki started to realize his own abilities. There was Champion's Aura, to scare his opponents, Champion Blessing, to increase his luck, Champion's Charisma, to inspire courage in his allies, and Champion's Action, which had ambiguous but beneficial effects. Masayuki's present powers were those. The inclusion of Champion's Guide seems to have the potential to elevate him to a heroic status.
Guiding the souls of the deceased, huh? I turn into a vessel? What on earth is that? I don't need this kind of skill if it's predicated on a friend's death.
I guess this is another skill that isn't useful, Masayuki thought. However, he wasn't overly disappointed because he hadn't had high expectations for it. He was content as long as things didn't become worse.
Alright, Bernie, let's meet up with the others again.
Masayuki had no idea that he had hidden abilities.
Alright, if you say that much, I'll just go along with whatever you want.
Bernie gave a resigned scratch to his head. Things changed drastically after the two exchanged smiles and turned to rejoin the others. Feldway took a step. Bernie didn't matter to him, but he was aware that he would obstruct his plans to seize Masayuki. Bernie was vulnerable and could be easily defeated with a single strike. In Feldway's eyes, Bernie was just a speck of dust, therefore it wouldn't matter if he knew or not. Feldway pulled out his sword and was ready to chop Bernie's head off without even making a sound or giving the wind any indication that he was there. However, what was heard was a distinct resonant tone. Something sounded like two swords colliding.
Who's blocking me? Can you tell me who you are?
His quick amazement vanished when Feldway inquired as to who it was. An answer came from a young girl wearing a mask.
My name is Chronoa. I am a hero.
There was a brief silence. Then Feldway burst out laughing.
I never imagined that I would come across a hero in this place. If so, allow me to introduce myself. Call me Feldway. Phantom King Feldway.
Chronoa heard his name and didn't seem to care. She had completely synchronized with Chloe's consciousness and had transformed into a heartless combat machine.
Phantom King? So, you are the leader of the Phantom tribe. The evil you have done in front of me is too great for me to ignore. Therefore, I have emerged in time to end this menace to humanity.
You are a brave one. Fool, allow me to put you in your place.
As soon as he finished speaking, Feldway, clad in his crimson uniform, took action. Chronoa vanished too, dressed in her white Holy Spirit armor. Red and white light streaks appeared before Masayuki and his companion's eyes. They could hardly see them anymore, but the noises were overwhelming. Still, there were no shockwaves, not even a breeze. Nobody could comprehend the dimension in which the combat was occurring.
That's it for this video, guys. Thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel. A big thanks to the AnimeKouhai patrons who made this video possible. Zach Rosan, Jerry Sladek, Stone Larone, Ekotski, Foolish Prophets, Ethan Madison, Charles Bailey, Sky T, Diego Ginoza, Nick H, Andre Hamilton, Jason Torres, Sedney John Rementizo. Thank you so much for helping out. I'll see you guys in the next video.